excited to be with you this morning and have this opportunity to bring the word. I'm absolutely thrilled. God has been taking me down this journey of learning Jesus's life and really studying that. And of course, when you start studying his life, it takes you to Mary, because that's where it started, right? And he's been working with me on obedience and obeying right when he says to do it, and not questioning, just saying, yes, Lord, I'll do it. And so I was brought to Luke 1:37-38. It says, "For nothing will be impossible with God. And Mary said, Behold, I am the servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word." And so the angel had just come to her, and he had just told her, you are going to have this child. Of course, we know she was a virgin. It was, in the natural, an impossible task. Like, Lord, how will that be? But nothing is impossible with God. She didn't question anything else. She just said, let it be. Let it be to me. And so how cool is that to have that kind of obedience? Mother's Day, I think back to when I had my first kid, and I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of things that I was like, well, how am I going to do this? And how am I going to do this? She didn't do any of that. She just said, let it be. She had no idea what she was doing. She had no idea how to raise a child. She hadn't done it before. But she said, let it be. And she could have easily said, nope, that sounds like way too hard of a task. And backed up and just said, you've got the wrong girl. I don't think this is for me. And she could have said no. She really could have, but she didn't. And what an amazing adventure in her life that she got to walk through, being the mother of the Son of God. Like, that would just be the greatest honor. And so I want that kind of faith. I want that kind of faith that if he comes to me and says, do this, I say, yes, let it be. I'll do that. And not question and not wonder and fear and worry and all of those things. Because every time I've been told to do something by the Lord, it's not really ever made sense in my natural mind. And he'll ask me to do something, and I have no idea how, or I don't know what it's going to look like. And, I could say no. And there have been many times that I did say no, but what have I missed out on when I did? And I don't want to be in that place. She had no idea what she was walking into. She just obeyed. And, in Mark 10, verses 17-27, it tells the story of the rich young ruler. And this is a man that God asked, sell everything and come with me. And he said no, because it says, and Jesus, looking at him, loved him and said, you lack one thing. Go and sell all you have, give it to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Come and follow me. And that's what God asked him to do. And there was going to be an amazing journey in his future. But sadly, he said he was disheartened and he went away, for he had great possessions and he didn't want to give it up. I don't want to be that person. What did that man walk away from that God could have done through his life? I don't want to be that person. I want to be the person that says, yes, Lord, let it be. I'm going for it. There's been many times that I've missed it. And in those times, God's going to get his will done. What it is that he's setting out to accomplish, he's going to get it done with or without you. And so you can either say, yes, Lord, I'll do it. Or you can back away, and he's going to find somebody who's the yes person that will do it on his behalf and do what he's called him to do. And I don't want to be the one that he has to pass by because I'm being too stubborn or I'm being too much in fear. It doesn't make sense. Otherwise, it wouldn't require faith. We can see all the tiny details. If we could see them, all those little tiny things, then it wouldn't require our faith to get us there. It would just be easy. And a lot of times walking in faith and walking in obedience, it's not always easy because we don't see the full picture. But I also know if I could see the full picture, I'd probably mess it up because I would try to do it my way. And then when I'm walking in obedience with him, I'm walking in the steps. I have to ask him daily, what am I to do? And he gives me those steps. And so it's not in my strength. It's not in my way. It's in his way. He may be asking you to do something super small that's an easier task, like buy the milk for the guy standing in front of you at Brahms. And that could absolutely change that man's life. He may be asking you to do something huge, like open your heart and open your home to another child through foster or adoption or having another child of your own. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's big, if it's small, 5 cents or $5,000. It doesn't matter, because knowing that if he's asking us to do it, he's going to see us through it. And so behind the scenes, God's always working, and he's always working things out. We just have to trust, and we have to obey. John the Baptist got to baptize Jesus because he was in the place that God appointed him in that moment, and at the right place at the right time, and Jesus came to him. And at first he kind of hesitated, like, who am I that I would get to do this? But then he walked in obedience. He did what he was called to do, and he got to baptize the Son of God. And so think about all the greats of the Bible, all the people that we call the greats, the Noahs and the Esthers and the disciples, like all these amazing people that their stories stand out. The key is they were just people. They were just people like you and I. And they are just somebody that God came to, and they obeyed. They did what they were told to do. They obeyed, and they became one of the greats of the Bible because they did crazy things like build an ark when there's no rain. And then when it started to rain, Noah wasn't crazy anymore. People didn't think he was nuts. They were probably trying to hop on his boat with him. And so a lot of times he may have us building an ark in the middle of nothingness. And why, Lord? And then the day comes when it does start to rain, and then all of the plans that he's been walking you through, they start to make sense. My husband's name is Matt, and Matt and I, several years ago, Matt had been climbing the corporate ladder. That's what we felt we were supposed to do at that time, and he had gotten very far. And we were doing well financially. We have 6 children. And so that's a lot to provide for on any given day. And he provided this corporate job, and Matt just kept getting promotion after promotion, and he was climbing that ladder, and we had all that we were hoping for. And then one day God said, leave it. You're going to leave this, and you're going to go work in ministry full time. And at first, I think everyone thought we were losing our minds. We're giving up all of the insurance and all the natural securities to go walk in ministry full time and take a massive pay cut. But we both had complete peace about it, and we did it. And I can say every need was been met. Everything that we've ever needed for our children has been met. But what we've gained may not be financial all the time. It is time with our family. And Matt and I's marriage began to be the best that it's ever been. We started teaching marriage classes and counseling with couples and families. And out of that, the next step is God's called us to birth this ministry called A Joyful Family, because their marriages and families are in such crisis. And so we've taken this step, and now I was like, well, Lord, why'd you call me to that? But that was all training ground to go to the next step of what he's called us. And so it doesn't always make sense in the moment. But then when you get to the other side, you can look back and you can think, oh, God, you've had it. You had us. You had my family. You had our finances. You had our health. You had all the things along the way that didn't necessarily make sense in the moment, but they totally make sense now. And so it didn't make sense to Mary that God would choose her as the route to bring in the Messiah, but her obedience allowed her to bring in the Son of God. It's just amazing. I'm just blown away by that. So it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter. So Hebrews 11:1 says, faith is defined by the assurance of things we hope for, but we cannot see. We cannot always see God walking beside us in the natural with our physical eyes. We can't always see how his plan's going to work out for us, but we have to trust him knowing that he's there. I can tell you there have been I call them my God moments, moment after moment after moment that God showed up. And I would get discouraged about different things. And in that moment, I would get a text or I would get a phone call from somebody saying, what you're doing matters. You blessed me. My marriage is better because of this. And so every single time you get discouraged, God will give you those God moments that let you know you're on the right path, that he's right there beside you. And sometimes it feels like you're in a season of isolation, and God's not abandoned you in those moments of isolation. I've had those. Being a mom of 6, we homeschooled for many years. There was a time when I felt so alone. I had no friends. I was just home with my kids all the time. Matt was at work. And in those moments, what I learned is that if you take time to seek the Father, he's going to grow something inside of you. And so I heard a message one time that said, you're not buried, you're planted. And in that moment of isolation for me, I was planted, and God was doing a work, and he was establishing a root system with me so that I could grow into what he was calling me to do. And so if you're in that season of feeling isolated and alone, know that you're planted. You're not buried. And God is working on your root system, and he's getting the foundation established, and he's getting you ready to blossom into what he's called for you. And so don't be discouraged in those seasons. We're living in a time that our margin for error is decreasing. It kind of feels like time just keeps speeding up a little. I don't know if it feels that way for you, but time just kind of speeds up, and we don't have a lot of time because we're in the end, and God has a lot he's trying to accomplish, and he's needing people that are ready to step into what he's called them to do, ready to just say, yes, Lord, I'll do it. And he's waiting. And as soon as you are obedient in that, he can do what he's called. And so I always tell my kids, delayed obedience, it's still disobedience. And so we can have a good heart, and we can be dragging our feet, and we can, oh yes, I'll do that tomorrow, Lord. But delayed obedience, it's still disobedience. And so we have to be quick to act, quick to respond, quick to obey. Psalms 119:60 says, I will hasten and not delay to obey your commands. We can't hasten. We've got to be quick to obey. What causes us to delay in our obedience? Mostly fear, for me, a lot. We trust our circumstances or the hypotheticals more than we have faith in what God can do with it. But what if we lose our house? What if we open our home to someone and it turns out to be a disaster? You can do all the what ifs, but what if you obey and it is the greatest thing that you've ever encountered? What if on the other side of that obedience, he has so much more for you than you ever thought you could do? The other thing that holds us back from obeying and delaying our obedience is greed. You know, the rich young ruler, he wasn't willing to sell all of his stuff and go and follow. And so the greed, the love of his stuff kept him from that obedience. The other thing is doubt. Did we really hear God? Can God really use me? Yes, absolutely he can. He can use each and every person, because we may not always think that we're equipped. I know that when I'm put into a thing that he's asked me to do, I don't think that I have the capabilities to do it. And so I just have to pray, Lord, you're going to have to equip me. I'll do it, but you have to give me the tools that I need, and you have to give me the answers, and you have to give me the wisdom to step into that. And he's always so very faithful to do it. Always so faithful. The other thing I tell my kids all the time, they probably get very tired of hearing it, is partial obedience is still disobedience. You know, we can have the best of intentions. Well, I'll do this thing, but I'm not going to do these other 2 small things that go with it. I'll just do the big thing because that's what matters, right? No, full obedience is what matters. And so partial obedience is still disobedience. There's been times that God's asked me to do different things. And even recently, he gave me very clear instructions on what I was to do. But I kept holding on to these 2 little things over on the side. And I had my grip on them. Because one, I liked it. I liked what he was asking me to give up. And it didn't make sense, of course. And I wanted to hold on because it was dear to my heart. And I just kept hearing him say, partial obedience, Heather, is still disobedience. And I can't take you to the next step until you let go. And I struggled with it for several days. I was delayed in my obedience. I think it was even a couple of weeks. And I finally just said, okay, God, I'm sorry. I let it go. I release it to you. I'll step out and I'll do what you told me to do in full obedience. I don't want to be caught in those little traps of partial and delayed obedience. I want to walk in the fullness of what he's called me to do. So, when we are walking in obedience with him, our life is a walking testimony to his goodness and his grace and his mercy. And we don't have to strive for perfection because we're never going to get there. We're always a work in progress. God's always working on us. And so those that come in contact with us when we're walking in obedience and we're walking in the blessing of the Lord and we're seeing him work in our life, that's a witness and a testimony to all those that are outside our walls watching us. Is she really going to do what she says she's going to do? Is he really walking that walk of, faith and trusting? Is he really showing people the love of God? Or is he doing this on one side and this on the other? And so we have to be a testimony, because when people are watching us, we want to be an amazing witness for what God can do for their life. Because whenever we're a witness to them, that brings others to the kingdom. And so he wants the best for you. God always wants the best for you. So just know that if he's asking you to do something, to give up something financial, time, resource, whatever it is, if it's an obedient step of walking into something, he has something better for you on the other side. And so we can't hold on to whatever it is. It could be a job, it could be a home, it could be a car, it could be something with our children, and with the, whenever he's asking us, he'll always be faithful. Always. Always, always. I've never known him. He doesn't ever say, hey, jump and do this, and then watch us fall. He's got us every single time. And so I just want to encourage you this morning. It may seem really hard. It may seem difficult what he's asking of you, but know that he has you. That he has you, he loves you, he wants what's best for you. So walk in that obedience and watch what God will do in your life. I'm so excited to be with you this morning. I pray that you have an amazing week. Father, I lift these people up to you, Father. Every single person watching and listening, Father. I thank you that you touch their life, that you show them the path that you have for them, that they will walk in your obedience, Lord, happily with a happy heart, knowing that you have them, you have their back, you have every resource that they need, Father, and I just thank you for it. I thank all that you're going to do for these people in their lives this week. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful week.